Colombia es un país en América del Sur y es cerca de Venezuela, Ecuador, Perú y Brasil. El capital de Colombia es Bogotá y ahora el presidente es Juan Santos. El último presidente fue Álvaro Uribe y ni Uribe ni Santos les da justicia a los ciudadanos de su país. El país ha estado en un conflicto internal para 40 años. Y este conflicto es entre los grupos paramilitares, el gobierno de Colombia y las guerrillas. Todos los grupos causan el sufragio para todo de Colombia. Y también es una lástima que estos grupos luchen porque muchas personas murieron cada día. Hay muchas violaciones de los derechos humanos en Colombia. Estas violaciones incluyen la violación de mujeres, la impunidad, las personas desplazadas y los grupos paramilitares. Es difícil que Juan Santos vaya a terminar estos problemas por muchos años. Cuando Álvaro Uribe fue presidente, hacía nada sobre estos problemas. Hacía programas para terminar estos problemas, pero nada de estos son efectivos. Es ridículo que este ocurra. Pero hay muchos grupos que quieren ayudar a Colombia, como Amnesty International y los Estados Unidos. Los Estados Unidos les da $8 billones a Colombia para combatir los problemas con los derechos humanos. Impunity is a big problem in Colombia, and it's a major contributor to the human rights issues. And what it is when someone commits a crime and it's pretty much known that they did it, but they go unpunished. And the major recipients of this are the paramilitary groups in Colombia, which were originally groups hired to help the Colombian government fight off guerrilla forces, which are like right-wing opposition to the government. But those groups have since then stemmed off to become involved in all sorts of crimes. And they receive impunity because they have connections in big business and the government. So whenever they're put on trial, they're given biased juries. And also, anyone that would attempt to punish the paramilitary groups for their crimes, such as like judges, lawyers, witnesses, victims, receive death threats, and the paramilitary groups always follow through on them. They're not false threats. Another reason they receive impunity is because Álvaro Uribe passed a law called the Justice and Peace Law, which stated that if a paramilitary group member confessed to their crimes, they'd receive a shortened sentence. And these sentences are often so short that it's pretty much a slap on the wrist and they're back out committing crimes again. And sexual crimes against women in Colombia are another prevalent issue, and it's most often a form of revenge against other groups warring in this internal conflict. And it's also often used as a threat to drive families off their land so that paramilitary groups or the guerrillas or the government can take their land. All three of those groups are involved in the human rights violations. And the problem is that the Colombian government doesn't seem to care that these things happen. Over 20,000 investigations into sexual crimes occurred in 2010, and according to the Colombian government, only 200 of these were related to this conflict, which shows that they don't really adequately investigate them and don't particularly care about it. And internal displacement is another big problem in Colombia. Most of the wealth acquired by politicians and members of the paramilitary groups is taken by selling the land from Colombia and the natural resources on it. And these, the owners of these actual land are indigenous peoples and Afro-descendant groups, but they're often caught in either the crossfire of the war between these groups, or they're forced off their land by the actual paramilitary groups. They're also often targeted because the group that currently controls the land they're living on is enemies with other groups, and they assume that these people are helping them, so they're attacked and forced to flee their land. And it's estimated that 3 to 4 million displaced people live in Colombia, and that they only contribute to the growing masses of the urban poor, which is a big problem over there. And the paramilitary groups themselves commit crimes ranging from like rape to robberies, murders, assassinations, drug trafficking, drug selling, almost anything you can think of. And they go unpunished, as I said earlier, because of their connections to the government, and also their just tendency to commit violent crimes whenever things don't go their way. Turn it over to Cassie.
Okay, so hay un nuevo legislación en 1990 que dice que las personas de las comunidades de descendidos afroamericanos se permiten tener nuestros de sus lugares recuerdan formales. Los paramilitares o las personas de las comunidades se reciben amenazas muertas de los paramilitares y las fuerzas de seguridad. Los paramilitares fuerzan las personas de esas comunidades cultivan coca. Es una planta de americana tropical. Usa para cocaine, es una source de cocaine y los paramilitares ocuparon los lugares de las personas de esas comunidades y las personas no quieren en contra de el gobierno y el army y los paramilitares, pero los paramilitares fuerzan las personas de esas comunidades estar en contra de ellos. El gobierno dice que los paramilitares no se permiten el derecho estar, matar y torturar, pero los paramilitares continuar matar y torturar esas personas de las comunidades de afroamericanos descendidos. Is that 2 minutes?
Yep.
Okay. So Colombia is one of the most dangerous places to live as a human rights activist, and there is a lot of conflict between the paramilitaries, the government, and the guerrilla forces. The paramilitaries have carried out politically motivated killings on all these innocent people, including human rights activists, community and religious leaders, and so the paramilitaries have killed all these innocent people, and like I said before, the Afro-descendant communities were people who were just, legislation had just passed for them to have their ownership over their land formally recognized, and the paramilitaries had forced them to grow cocaine for them to have. So another thing is the indigenous people, which are pre-Columbian inhabitants of North and South America, and they have historical ties with, like not having colonization or any formation of a nation state. And the ONSC, which is the National Indigenous Organization of Colombia, has stated that 1,400 indigenous men had been killed because just they were innocent people, and the paramilitaries had carried out all these politically motivated killings to all these innocent people who really didn't deserve it. And the ONIC had also reported that 4,700 people were killed between 2002 and 2009. The extrajudicial executions, which was another section that I had to partake in this project, was that in 2008 it became public that the paramilitaries and the guerrilla forces had killed dozens of people, and they were falsely presented as the guerrilla forces or paramilitary groups killed in combat, but really it was these innocent and young men, like young women and men, that were killed. And it was taken place in Soacha, which is a poor neighborhood near the capital of Bogota. And these killings were carried out by the paramilitaries and criminal gangs. And the soldiers were lured into being killed by the promise of employment and payment, and then they were killed by the paramilitaries and criminal gangs. Also, the paramilitaries and criminal gangs, anyone who had done the duty to kill one of the young soldiers, were given money, a letter of congratulations, and extra days of holiday from their superiors. So it was practically like a job. If you killed an innocent person, you could get paid for it. So it was almost in a sense like a mafia. So.